You're watching Football Daily, and this is our list of 10 clubs that bought their way to success. 10. Hoffenheim. Hoffenheim may have never won the Bundesliga or the Cup, but the side from Germany held the title of the most hated club in the country until Red Bull covered Leipzig in a blanket made of money. Formed in 1945 in a village of just 3,000 people, Hoffenheim were in the 9th division when former youth player and software billionaire Dietmar Hopp invested in the team. Hopp financed a new 5,000-seater stadium and instructed the club to focus on developing young players. They raced up the divisions with his money, and the appointment of visionary coach Ralf Rangnick finally took them to the Bundesliga in 2008. Hopp again put his hand in his pocket and built another stadium, this time with 30,000 seats, and Hoffenheim now average 28,000 spectators at their games, when in 1999 they got just 300. And in hiring the youngest manager in Bundesliga history, the 28-year-old Julian Nagelsmann, Hoffenheim have showed that they are still innovating and marching on with money in their pockets. 9. Fenerbahce. Turkish giants Fenerbahce bought glory in a slightly more direct way back in 2011. The previous year, Bursaspor had become only the 5th side to win the Turkish Super League, with the competition's history dominated by the big four of Galatasaray, Fenerbahce, Besiktas and Trabzonspor. The 2010-2011 campaign was close fought though, with Trabzonspor and Fener finishing level on 82 points. But the Yellow Canaries' plus 50 goal difference gave them the trophy, after 16 wins in their last 17 games. However, a scandal erupted at the end of the season, as Fenerbahce were accused of fixing 12 games. The chairman, Aziz Yildirim, was arrested, and so were agents, coaches and even players. 21 people were eventually charged, but remarkably, after paying off literally everyone, the club was still not relegated, despite UEFA rules demanding it, with Gianni Infantino and Michel Platini refusing to enforce the regulations. Yildirim is still the club's chairman. 8. Portsmouth. The story of Portsmouth is really the story of Harry Redknapp. Once riding high, both have been brought to their knees by money troubles, but the two did combine to great success during the 2000s. In his first 2 years with Pompey, Redknapp signed 41 players for a combined £7.65 million. But his taste became a little more expensive in 2006, when French-Israeli businessman Alexandre Guédamec invested in the club. Portsmouth went from relegation strugglers to 8th in the league, winning the FA Cup as well in 2008 with a costly team containing Kanu, Lastiara, Suleiman Tari and Sol Campbell. They competed in the UEFA Cup the following year. But the spending eventually got out of control, with Portsmouth's wage bill in 2009 equal to 109% of their revenue. They eventually racked up £120 million of debt and were placed into administration. They have since slipped down to the 4th division of English football. 7. Monaco. Owned by the House of Grimaldi, the royal family of Monaco, and Russian billionaire Dmitry Rybolovlev, AS Monaco are one of the richest clubs in France. Having reached a Champions League final back in 2004, the Red and Whites were bottom of League 2 in 2011 when the Russian opened his checkbook, and Claudio Ranieri eventually restored them to the 1st division in 2013. 1/3 of Monaco's residents are millionaires, and that summer several more were added, with James Rodriguez and Radamel Falcao arriving for more than €100 million. Moutinho and Kondogbia joined them, as did a young prospect from Lyon called Anthony Martial. Monaco failed to break PSG's hold on Ligue 1 though, and a year later Rybolovlev announced that he was scaling back transfer funds. Ironically, the team are now competing more closely for the title, supporting themselves through smart recruitment and big sales, with Martial and Yannick Carrasco bringing in huge money. 6. RB Leipzig. €8 billion giant Red Bull owns 5 football clubs around the world, with franchises in Austria, the USA, Brazil and Ghana. But their German offshoot looks set to become the most successful of the lot, with RB Leipzig climbing through 5 divisions in 7 years to reach the Bundesliga. Because the club was forbidden to use the Red Bull brand name by the DFB, Leipzig are technically called Rasenballsport, and are the first East German team in the Bundesliga since 2009. However, they have been criticised for their free spending and have also hiked the membership prices to get around the 50+1 rule, which allows supporters to have a say in the running of the club. But with the aforementioned Ralf Rangnick as sporting director and Ralf Hasenhüttl as coach, the side has built one of the best collections of young talent on the entire continent, using their Salzburg sister team as a feeder club and are competing for the title in their first year in the top flight. 5. Bayern Munich. Bayern's long and illustrious history has protected them from some of the criticism aimed at Hoffenheim and RB Leipzig. However, the Bavarian giants are not above throwing cash around to preserve their spot at the head of the Bundesliga. Neuer, Hummels, Lewandowski and Kimmich have all been pilfered from German rivals, while Niklas Süle and Sebastian Rudi look set for moves in 2017 as well. And out of the 17 players to have cost German clubs more than £20 million, 12 have been signed by Bayern Munich. Swoops for Borussia Dortmund players have given Bayern 4 titles in a row, a Bundesliga record, but with Leipzig now threatening to match FCB's financial clout, tensions might be mounting at the Allianz Arena. 4. Real Madrid. A team so star-studded that they gave us a new word in the dictionary, Real Madrid's Galacticos were the most expensive assembly of talent in football history in the early 2000s, with Figo, Zidane, Beckham and Walter Samuel costing Los Blancos a combined €242 million. Michael Owen arrived on the cheap whilst Roberto Carlos was already at the club, and Raul and Casillas were academy graduates. That team delivered 3 titles and a Champions League between 2000 and 2007, but the sale of Makelele unbalanced the side, and they couldn't pull away from Valencia and Deportivo La Coruña despite their financial advantage. Undeterred, Florentino Perez pushed on, kicking off a second Galacticos era with the 2009 signing of Cristiano Ronaldo and Kaká. And they've spent €634 million more on 14 players since, at an average of €45 million per player. 3. Manchester City. Man City's ambitions have exceeded even Real Madrid's. The Sky Blues have not just bought titles in 2012 and 2014, but have laid the groundwork to compete at the top of the sport for years to come, with a €200 million youth academy churning out top prospects as well. Add to that the $750 million that City have already spent on established players, and you have a juggernaut ready to rival Barcelona and Bayern Munich. Their yearly revenue exceeds that of Arsenal, Chelsea and Juventus, whilst Pep Guardiola is the world's highest paid manager, earning a cool £15 million at the Etihad. Of course, all of that is pennies to Sheikh Mansour, the club's owner, whose family is worth a reported $1 trillion. Truly mind-blowing money. 2. PSG. Paris Saint-Germain had not won the French title since 1994, when they were acquired in 2011 by Qatar Sports Investment. Since then, Le Parisians have spent €674 million, with 9 players arriving for more than €30 million each. The French super club have won 13 trophies under Qatari rule, whilst outspending every club in Europe except Chelsea, Manchester United and Manchester City. UEFA slapped the club with a €60 million fine as a result, but it's failed to slow PSG down in the transfer market, with Angel Di Maria joining for €63 million in 2015. PSG's pulling power has not yet equalled Bayern or the big Spanish clubs, whilst the growing influence of the Chinese Super League dwarfs even Qatar's financial might. But with 4 consecutive appearances in the Champions League quarter-finals, the club have gone from French underachievers to European monsters with a bit of extra cash. 1. Chelsea. The sugar daddy of them all, Chelsea are still the most successful of all Europe's new money clubs. As recently as 1982, the club were in the 2nd division and almost dropped to the 3rd tier, their crippling debt allowing Ken Bates to buy the club for just £1. 20 years on, Roman Abramovich dropped £140 million to take ownership of the Blues, and added another £100 million on players. Jose Mourinho delivered back-to-back titles, and the side has earned 2 more in the decade since, as well as the Champions League in 2012. Since Abramovich arrived in West London, Chelsea have won every major competition, with 15 of the club's 26 trophies coming under the Russian rule. The 14 managers who have taken charge of the team since the Roman Empire began have spent £1.12 billion, and the Blues have averaged 3rd in the table in that time, having only managed 7th in the years before. Turns out that in the blue half of London, money can buy happiness.
Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to leave your comments below. If you enjoyed this video, there's another one playing on screen right now. And as ever, don't forget to like and subscribe.